welcome back to this second segment of the Glazov Gang, where we are discussing the president's lie and the president, his apology, I guess, quote unquote, and that Obama said sorry, right? It's a very interesting segment. Monty, Morton, Anne-Marie, Murrell, and Basil Hoffman, welcome back to the Glazov Gang. Before we get back to the very serious issues, we forgot to say what an incredible week Anne-Marie had.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers, and we're just honored to be in your presence today.
Please.
You were on Dr. Phil?
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I was on the Dr. Phil show today. We taped it today. It'll air, I don't know when. I'll let you know when.
Excellent.
But it was on racial profiling. And I also got an exclusive with Ted Cruz. Dr. Gene Loudon and I did.
Big time.
Oh.
So you're going big time. And then you
and
ended
look.
up on the Glazov Gang.
And look.
Black and
color.
yellow, black and yellow. Anne-Marie and I are color coordinating
Simpatico.
before each
I didn't
show.
get the memo.
No, you know what?
Yeah, I didn't get the memo.
No, this is we're actually not color coordinating. It just happens that way.
It just
because
does.
great minds think alike
That's
in terms
right.
of color coordination.
Absolutely.
Basil, do you want to talk some more about your series, just to remind people in case they forgot?
I think at the
Black
end of
and
the
yellow.
show, I would do that.
At the show, okay.
But I was serious, actually, about Cards, New Hampshire, because it really is a wonderful dramatic piece. I'm more proud of this than I am of any other show that I've done. And I've worked with 8 Academy Award-winning directors. I've worked in 2 films that won Best Screenplay Academy Awards. And I think that this is as well done as anything I've ever done. I'm very proud of this series.
We are very proud and also very honored that you're here with us. And
Thank you.
Monty, you
I
can,
fell asleep.
you can take
I went to sleep.
Now, that's not very
I did
nice.
it again.
No. So, Monty, do you have anything to say about something you starred in or something you've done before we begin?
No.
Did you ever want to star in anything?
Did it? No.
Okay,
no.
a favorite,
Nothing that I can mention.
A favorite movie of yours? Goodfellas, Goodfellas, Scarface?
Actually, I love The Exorcist. Patton was a great movie.
Okay.
Can't think of too many others off the top of my head.
Casino.
Casino, that was fair.
Okay.
Godfather 2.
There we go.
Godfather 2.
Okay. But the artist and ordinary people in the top 5, because Basil Hoffman starred in them.
And probably All the President's Men.
You know what?
As well.
You're correct. That is true. That is a true statement.
Okay, Glazov Gang
Thank
members, in terms of Obamacare,
Do I have to pay you for this?
in terms of Obamacare, Basil, you believe that on the one hand there's a blessing that might be in all of this, because you believe that this will actually, through the pain, it might hurt the Democrats and the left, but you also believe that there's a very destructive design on the part of Obama at the same time.
Yeah, there is a design.
What are the thoughts? What are your thoughts on this?
We found out how blatant this guy's designs are in the IRS scandal, when the Tea Party was targeted, so that these people couldn't function. The Tea Party organizations couldn't function because they couldn't get their approvals from the IRS. So now we have Obamacare, and with all the information that we know is being gathered on all of us, can you imagine that you have to have a hip replacement, or you have to have your broken arm fixed, and the first question they ask you is, how did you vote in the last election?
That's pretty scary stuff.
That is very scary
Now, but wait
stuff.
1 second, Basil.
And it's clear that that's what they're after.
Okay, now Basil.
We know who they are and what they do.
I'm thinking about maybe going back to Canada. I'm going to get to you 1 second, Monty. 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
I have to jump in. Basil hit on something. I think.
How come you never compliment me on hitting on something? It's always Basil.
Well, because you stole my thunder on the lie stuff. And I had to try to ad-lib and recover from that one.
Okay, go ahead.
But Basil said something. Now I lost my train of thought. Folks, help me here. He said about the person needing a hip replacement. I think Basil might have been a little, maybe pernicious in terms of how he explained it, but he was absolutely right on. Contained in Obamacare is a 15-member health panel. Now, Sarah Palin said, those are the death panels. And the Democrats said, oh, no. The mandate of the 15-member health panel is to control costs. Now that's a euphemism for now you're 85 years old, you're in reasonably good health, and let's go back to the hip replacement. So they're going to take a look at your life expectancy and say, well, you've got another 7.2 years to go, and a hip replacement is going to cost us $75,000. Take ibuprofen for the rest of your life and stay in pain. You were right.
Anne-Marie, your thoughts on the design and what the objectives were? Like, you know, there's quite a bit of debate here in terms of also some believe that Obama knew that all of this was going to happen, obviously, because as Monty said earlier, they knew a lot of this stuff. So maybe there would be outrage or failure or catastrophe or whatever, but in the end, it would be such a miserable situation that they would just impose a one single-payer system. What do you think of this?
I think that's absolutely the ultimate design. And what I'm wondering, all these people that are losing their insurance, does this mean that they all have pre-existing conditions now and they're not going to be able to get reinsured, so they're going to have to sign up for ObamaCare? Is this what all these people that have lost their insurance, is that what's happening with these people?
Okay, just to,
a family member just lost her insurance this week. Luckily, she's healthy, but
okay.
what happens to all those people?
Right, but just a sec. Let me go to Basil on this for a minute in terms of what we were discussing before the show. One angle here is it's such a catastrophe that then they just say, oh, we have to save the situation, one single payer.
Yeah.
But you were also saying in some ways that's too big of a risk, because if it's such a catastrophe, it hurts the left and the Democratic Party. Give us that angle where you're actually happy in some ways that this is happening.
Because they won't be trusted again. Because now, and if you look at the poll numbers, Obama's poll numbers are plummeting now. On Real Clear Politics, the average poll for Obama now, his disapproval, is 11.2%. The difference between his approval and his disapproval, he's way down in the low 40s. So 54% disapprove of Obama now, 41% approve. Pretty soon it'll be 35% approving of him and 60% disapproving. He's plummeting, and the entire Democrat Party has hitched onto his wagon. And he's taking them down with him. I really believe that, and I think that's God's design. I really do.
So the catastrophe is a blessing. There's going to be pain and people are hurt, but they're going to be able to see the demagoguery and the catastrophe and just the ineptness and dishonesty of the left.
But
right?
the result of that,
It's becoming clear.
But one sec. But then it means what I'm trying to get into the left's head, into Obama's head. If they plan this, then did they plan incorrectly, not knowing that the outrage would affect them?
Yes. Yes, because they thought they were invulnerable. Obama and all of the Democrats thought that this man was critique-proof.
Okay.
Partly because of his color, partly because of the
Right,
hype
but-
around him.
Right, but you see the two angles here. One
They
thing...
didn't know it'd be such a
Right, but you
disastrous
see the two
collapse.
angles here that I'm
Yes,
stressing,
yeah.
because
Yeah, I
some say that, you know, what Anne-Marie's saying, that there's, and we're at least interpreting for us, that there's the angle that they knew it would be a catastrophe and then imposed their will, but then what you're saying is the catastrophe was so bad that they would be destroyed rather than imposing their
However,
will. Right, Monty?
however, everything, and again, well stated, however, everything ultimately is predicated upon how the Republicans play their hand.
Wow, yes.
If they overplay their hand, they're going to find themselves at the short end of an election. And without getting into the details of the moderate right and the far right, once the Republicans decide that winning an election is more important than a social issue here or there, then the Republicans can win. Until that time, they're still going to be splintered and, unfortunately, not be able to pull off an election. That's my concern.
I have one. I think there's one thing that they can do worse than overplaying their hand.
What?
Not play their hand.
That's true.
Anne-Marie,
That's the worst.
even being with Ted Cruz this week and also following the developments, what do you think of this in terms of how the Republicans are going to have to play their hand on all of this?
We are absolutely splintered right now, and even within the Tea Party movement, they're splintered. There are different aspects of the Tea Party movement. They don't want to work with each other. Right now, we have got to get it together. And the problem with our side is we don't like to be collectivists. We're not into collectivism. We all want to be individuals. We want to be the captains of all of our little tiny ships instead of gathering all of our ships and making one big giant one. That's what we're going to have to do in order to win this next election, because right now what I'm seeing as from my aspect, writing and being a reporter and being out in the world, Hillary Clinton's going to win if it was today.
Well, the left is very strong. Look, I hope we have just a little bit of time, because what I want to move on to, because how I'm seeing everything happening is we have a Marxist in power, Obama. He wants to take this country down. Marxists and leftists do not like the success. They don't like the shining city on a hill. They want to crumble it. And I think at the same time, international, so he's doing that with ObamaCare and all these socialist economics here, but also hurting Israel and hurting America on the international stage. So I want to talk about what I see as the catastrophe of what they're trying to do with Iran right now at the expense of Israel. But before we go right there, a conclusion from you: how badly is ObamaCare going to hurt America? What's going to happen? Give us, each of you can be a bit prophetic here. Give us a prophecy or what you think might happen, Basil.
It's just going to be painful, really, really painful.
Okay.
For a lot of people. And,
okay.
And I feel bad for the people who are hurt who didn't vote for Barack Obama.
And then?
And for the people who voted for him and those who sympathize with him, they have learned that elections have consequences.
And what's going to happen in the end? I mean, it's going to increase the debt, you know, in a huge way. It might lead to the collapse of the economy.
No, I think there will be. No, I don't think so. I think there will be a collapse of Obamacare in the next year or two.
Really?
Yep. And then I think the insurance companies will again have their doors open. The Republicans, or I would say, the Tea Party conservatives, will put forth some good ideas about competitive insurance rates.
Wow.
And people will go back into the free market
so
to get
you
their
think,
insurance.
so
That's what I think will happen.
So there's going to be pain. You're sorry about that, but in the end, people will see the destructiveness of all of this, and the correct conservative free enterprise ideas will be reinstituted. Very optimistic
I'm very
prophecy.
optimistic.
Very optimistic. Anne-Marie?
I wish that would happen, but I think that the Democrat Party is not the kind of party that would ever admit that they made a mistake. I think they would rather it just ruin the country before they admit that it's wrong and move on to something else. I also wonder how there's nothing in Obamacare for supply and demand. We're gonna, if we can have all these extra people that are gonna have all this health care and need to go to the hospital, hospitals are going to have to order more beds, more equipment. There's nothing in Obamacare to make up the difference. And that alone is going to cripple us.
And unfortunately, I wish that the population of the United States was full of people like you three, but I don't think that's the case. I think more than half the country is checked out. I'm from a country where Politburo members chanted Stalin on their way to their executions, ordered by Stalin, and I think that that's affecting us today. Monty?
I would like to disagree with my fellow conservative, Basil. As long as the Democrats have the executive branch of the government, which they do, until 2016, nothing's going to happen because the president has to sign the bill. And in order for the Senate to override a veto, we're not going to have enough Republicans in the Senate. So we are on a roller coaster that's going down with $17.4 trillion of debt, and the catastrophic economic effects of Obamacare are just going to explode.
Very, very dark and crazy, scary times. We just have a couple minutes left. Please, very briefly, John Kerry, with his little Middle East peace tour, or whatever it is that he thinks he's doing, but that they're putting a plan together with the mullahs of Iran, trying to come to an agreement, but it doesn't look like they're getting anything back from the mullahs, not stopping the road towards the nuclear bomb, lessening sanctions, etc. Israel has come out, Netanyahu is saying what they're doing here is a very, very bad deal. This is scary that the United States is betraying Israel. Your thoughts on it, Basil?
I heard John Kerry this weekend, and he so clearly explained what the Democrats think of negotiation with with somebody who's trying to destroy them, trying to destroy you. He said, we're working very carefully to get all the words right.
Yeah.
It tells you all you need to know
Terrible
about these
stuff.
people.
Anne-Marie?
I think the only good thing about that is that organizations like the Anti-Defamation League are now saying that they think this is going to help polarize the American Jews and help them finally understand how desperate the situation is for Israel.
Mm-hmm. Monty?
I'm going to be just a little bit longer-winded. You know, on one of the other cable shows, they have the word of the day, and I want to introduce the word of the week on the Glazov gang, and the word is pusillanimous. The pusillanimous president means cowardly. Mm. And one would think that Rouhani is now Obama's BFF, his best friend. I cannot imagine us agreeing to ease the sanctions. I cannot imagine us agreeing to anything. If I were talking to the president, I would say, hey, Mr. President, how about Iran gives up their centrifuges, they give up their plutonium enrichment, and then we'll ease sanctions. Anything short of that, it's like the Monopoly game. We'll end up giving them Boardwalk and Park Place for Baltic and Atlantic.
Very scary times indeed. And
Well said.
Thank you.
all good things.
Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's why we have Monty on the Glazov game. All good things must come to an end. Final 10 seconds of wisdom from each of you. Monty? 10 seconds, please.
The far left, I call them the political narcoleptics. And the far left, a political narcoleptic is a person that when they're confronted with irrefutable facts, their eyes glaze over and they go to sleep.
You're exactly right. Anne-Marie, final words of wisdom?
What he said.
What he said?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No, I told
How
someone
about what books
recently.
they should read?
I don't know. Did you write a book? When I was a Democrat, you get to a certain point where you absolutely do have to glaze over. You have to shut your brain down. You can't allow truth and facts to get in there, or you're going to have to admit that you're wrong about everything in your life.
That's extremely well said as well. And now to the Buddha of wisdom, the final words of wisdom, Basil Hoffman.
I'm very optimistic about where this country is headed now. And the pain, this Obamacare pain, reminds me of something a very wise man once said. He said, you had to have Good Friday to get Easter.
Well, I thank you very much. I'm on the other side of that. I think terrible things are on the horizon because the left is in control. But one thing we share is that we'll all be fighting.
Yes.
We'll all
You
be
bet.
fighting, and I'll be fighting even till the ship goes down. Thank you very much for joining the Glazov gang, and we'll see you again soon. We'll see you next week. Good night.